Today's session will be about running Next.js as frontend and using Enonic XP as the backend and the headless CMS. And hopefully we'll be able to show you something that is different from what most people are used to when it comes to combining these modern stack websites, front ends with headless CMSs. Basically, we're trying to blur the border between if it's like a traditional CMS or if it's set up as a headless CMS. First, I will be walking you through more or less the developer side of things, how this looks for a Next.js developer. Before we start demoing, I'll just tell you a bit about sort of the background for headless, if you're not too familiar with it. But the short version is that kind of the concept of headless CMS more or less originated, and at least it got popular due to apps. So people wanted to have content into their apps. It could be like smaller things, news articles, notification messages, if there's a problem, you know. And this kind of drove the first wave, so to say, of headless CMSs, where you could just go online and get a very, very basic and simple feature where you could create your own content types and then start publishing and consume that data. And over the years, the headless, not the headless, these front-end frameworks for web have become increasingly more popular, and with that, people have started to using the headless CMSs to fuel these front-end frameworks, right? Because that was kind of the obvious choice to do it, where you could connect these separate things, and with the sort of increased complexity of that content and the increased complexity of these front ends, we've ended up in a scenario where the editors have kind of lost a bit of the control that they're used to when they're building websites. So previews have been clunky. It's been also hard to get visual editing. Sometimes you have to wait a long time even to get a decent preview. So we're aiming to sort of fix this basically, and with the integration we're showing off today, the difference if you're using like a traditional CMS where the rendering is close connected with the CMS, or if it's handled outside of the CMS, is more or less invisible. So let's have a look at it then. All right, so I've been doing some preparations. Basically, it's about setting up a local instance. So this is kind of a developer environment. I've set up a local instance of our platform, Enonic XP, and I've installed some apps that we have that help you do things like manage content. So I'll be launching Content Studio, which is where the editors normally work. And this app is now set up, or sort of Content Studio is now set up with some sample content. So I have the headless movie database here, which is basically consists of a few different content types. It has movies, articles, persons, and playlists. And it has some structure, so you can see movies here. And I can click these various things. And right now you can see it says failed to render content preview. I will get back to that soon. So basically I have the data running, the CMS setup. And now I want to start doing some rendering. To do the rendering, I have a Next.js project here. And I can do npm run dev to launch the server. Starting up Next.js in developer mode. And there it's running. And now I can go to the localhost 3000 port. And this server should now be set up to talk to the CMS. So yes, I'm getting some feedback. So you might be wondering, what is it communicating with? Well, Enonic provides like a GraphQL API. So here I have connected to the API, and I get like an API browser, and then we can do queries, GraphQL queries. So in this case, I'm saying here's talk to the API and do get site, and then present the name. Maybe we could do some other fields like modified time of the site itself. So the site would be this item. So that's the root item. So let's try to run the query. Yeah, you can see I'm getting data. So that's the endpoint that Next.js is communicating with. And when I'm going in this first time, it's basically set up to do some debugging. So for each URL I'm using, if there is a content item behind it, it will extract some data for that item. So you can see here it's getting some data about the site, headless movie database, and the ID and some other fields here. So that's just for like initial debugging. If I try some other URLs like persons, yeah. Yeah, we can see we're getting some other data from that content item, and going back again, we can find that item here, persons, and Leah. And now that I've started the next server, you can see I'm getting the preview, if that's what we would call this, contextually inside Content Studio. So the structure of the URLs are essentially matching what you see here. So persons/Leah Sedu, right? That's what I wrote here. And this is directly matching the content. So we're also using the structure of your content and mapping that directly to the site. So next step, let's go into the code behind this Next.js project. So here it is. I hope it's visible for everyone. And that's the structure of a classic Next.js project. And if I go into the SRC folder, we can see at least one interesting thing. It's this one called the Enonic adapter. So this is a piece of code that we're offering to simplify the integration between the platforms. And it helps us and helps the developer to do this pretty easily, we think. So there's one other thing here called components, and then there's pages. So pages is a standard Next.js thing. And this is where you can more or less set up the routing. So you can say, if I create a file called my page tsx here, it will actually be in the URL. So I would then have my page. So I could write my page, it would hit this controller in the pages here. And we have a magic trick, this one, which is like a catch-all router. So this is the one that is handling all the traffic. You go to any URL, it goes to this one, unless it's an error. And then it will look into the CMS to see if it finds a suitable match and then start rendering. Okay, so what will it render? Well, that's where these components come into the picture. So there's a few folders here, but then there's this one, mappings TS. So if I have a look at it, currently there's just one mapping registered. It's this one. And it basically says, add content type, catch all, and then use props view. So what does this do? Well, basically it's going to catch all requests and render it with this props view. So, and that's nice, but we want to be a bit more specific. So I'll start by basically removing this, commenting it out, and then I will introduce rather a more special handling here for the content type person. So I'm basically saying if the URL that you're invoking now is matching a person in the CMS, then use this component. And it says do a query called getPerson and then use a view called person. So if you look at the queries, you can see here, getPerson. So this basically, if you look at the details, it's a GraphQL query and it's saying fetch some data about persons, some specific data. And we're seeing it fetching an image URL here. And then if we look at the views, there's a person TSX. So here's like a React template, which is doing the rendering. So let's see what happens now if I save this change. Save. Going back and going back to the front end. Oh, there we are. So this dev mode, when you're running Next in dev mode, it keeps trying to automatically refresh, and sometimes you will see an error message while it is compiling or something like that. So, but it immediately will update the, that's one of the things I guess the front-end developers like, is the fact that you instantly get stuff compiled. You don't have to wait a long time until you can see the results of your code changes. So at least now we see this stuff when I visit the same URL as before. If I go to Content Studio, just click somewhere else. Yeah, now I'm getting this preview. Good. It's definitely a step forward. If I click something else, I'll probably, yeah, nothing to render, no template or page configured. Okay. Next up, I'll just enable some headers and footers. It's just an example of how you can do this in Next, but at least it's a useful way of doing it. So there's like a magic file, the app.tsx, which is executed on every request to Next. So currently it was just returning the component. So I'll just comment this one out. Then have a slightly bigger piece of code here, which will return a header with some parameters and then a footer. And then the component is still here. Right. Save. See. Look at Jeffrey then. It's also a person. So here we can see we're now getting a header and a footer. Let's see if I can find this one. And of course, here as well, going directly to the preview or the draft server, I get more information. Okay, nice. So that's an improvement, I guess. And how about doing something more interesting? Well, thing is that we can also create pages. If I look at the person, what it is, edit. This is like a classic headless CMS thing. It's a structure, it's a form, right? So this is the content type person. It has photos, bio, birth date. It's very simple, but it serves the purpose. And here's the preview. Can't do much about it because it's kind of hard-coded, as you've seen so far. But what if I have a look at some other items like the front page here? So the front page is currently nothing, but how can I start making it something more interesting? Well, XP or Enonic has a concept called components also, and one of them is the page component. So we'll start by activating that. These components are already registered in this app. So I have a set of components that are in the Enonic, on the Enonic side of things already. So to make the demo a bit faster, we won't be updating the Enonic side, but we already have the components I'm gonna implement in Next.js here. So they're already sort of in place. Moving on to the code again, I can see the mappings once more. You can see that there's a page mapping here. I'm saying that let's register a page component, and it's basically called main, right? And then let's use the view main page. Okay, saving. I'm going back here, and I'll now try to edit this page. As you can see, nothing so far. If I click edit, Content Studio now realizes that, okay, you actually have a page component. So I get this ability to select the page component for the site. So yes, I'll choose main. And then it actually renders an empty page. Of course, it's empty because it's supposed to be like just a wrapper for other items you want to put into the page. So what can I put into the page? Well, right now I don't have that much, but at least I have the rich text editor. So I can drop in the rich text editor and start playing around. This is the headless database rendered by Next. Right? Yes. Some centering and maybe some. So as you can see, I'm working in a like a Visivig visual editing environment. Smaller text. Right? And I can save it. And now I should be able to also see what's happening here on the first page. So, of course, because everything I'm seeing in the editing environment is actually rendered by this front end. Okay, moving on. What more can we do? Well, we have something called parts, which are literally the boxes you place on the pages. So I'll enable a few parts here in my front end. Look at them. We have something here called movie details. There's heading, and there's child list. So what do they do? Well, pretty much what you imagine. This one's gonna render the heading of the page or the content. This one's gonna render child items, and this one's gonna render details of a movie. And we can recognize the same pattern here. There's a query, there's a view. This one just has a view because the heading data is already in the, let's say, the default query that is executed. And the final one here has the same query and view, but it also has another neat trick. It's a processor. It's basically a JavaScript function or TypeScript that you can invoke yourself and do whatever you like. So if you need to get some data from something else than the CMS, then this is where you would put it. Or if you need to massage some data or do something more interesting. Yeah, so 3 components enabled. Let's try to use them. Yeah. And back we can pick something else. Okay, I'll just mark this as red as well. So close it. And let's see now. Sorry. We'll take the movie page. So this is just a folder, right? But we can convert it into a page as well, a landing page. Edit. And I'll enable this one. And set, again, the page component. When you have a part, it can potentially be configured and have its own form, like you see over here. This has a sort order. I can try to add it again just to see if we can make it work at all. Heading. Yeah, you can override the heading, but apparently, yeah, at least that works. So yeah, it's just not getting the right data, and then it didn't have a fallback, so that's why it kind of disappeared. So as you can see, I can add some stuff here. I can also add some text into this page. Then we can maybe insert a picture as well. We can just browse the pictures. Right. Yeah. Cool guys. Search. So here we have some text and a heading part, and we can save it, mark it as ready. Well, sometimes you want to kind of organize the page a bit more. Now I'm just kind of having a flow of items. So to do that, we have something called the layouts. And yeah, I have a layout there. It's a 2-column layout. You can, of course, make many variants. And of course, you 100% control the appearance of things. But let's just enable this 2-column layout and try to use it. I can try to insert the layout then. 2 columns. And yeah, I guess that's what you said. I have an older version, Pavel. Just refresh
Yeah,
it.
right.
That's why the columns didn't come in. There, it's better. So now we can drop stuff onto the page where we want it, right? So as you can see, text component, a part, another part, and these are, we call them regions. And if I select the parent of the region, I have the 2 columns. And essentially, all these different components can be configurable. The page, the heading, the parts, the layouts can also have forms of their own if you would like to add configuration or content directly into this part. So great. Pretty good now. I'm starting to get a site here. If I close this one again, you can see I have now the front page. We have the movie page. Okay, that's ready. And what else? So we have the persons, obviously. So that's still working. And what about movies? So if I click a movie, oh, again, no rendering. Let's set up some rendering then. Yep, again, turn on, create a page for this item, select the main page component, and then drag, let's drag a part here. We have the movie details part, obviously, that fits here. So there we are. Mark it as ready. Okay, moving out. Now I have what I wanted, the movie presentations, but what if I click 7 matrix? Okay, none of them will render. So the way you can create a page that is going to be reused for all the movies is a concept we call page templates. So as an editor, I can even do that. So if I select this item, I can go to edit mode. Sorry, it's a bit quick. Edit, and I can save it as a template. So let's try that. Save as template, and this just creates another content item. And better name would be movie details, maybe. Details. And as we can see, it supports the content type movie here. So saving that, and we can even mark that one as ready. And going back, yeah, this is again the rendering that's compiling. So now, if I click this one already set up, but now I should also get 7. Yeah, you can see they're all doing the same. And if I want to change this one, I'll find it here. So I have just another page. It works pretty much like everything else, but you just need special permissions to edit the page template. So I can go in here, and if I want to have something on top, maybe, all right? So all the movies get, yeah, what do I want? Some text. Yeah. Okay, then this should be on all the pages. For movies. Let's see. Here's some text. So there we are. We are able to customize and make templates that work across multiple items or for just a single item. And of course, I have the content type folder here as well. So if I wanted to create a template just for folders, support folder, folder details. I can set up a custom page just for folders. And maybe we want to drop, let's see, insert. Yeah, we can just have the children child list and maybe ascending. And you can see it just as there's no data here. That's fine. I'm just in the template. But if I go over to navigation, articles, yeah, now see I'm getting all the folders are being rendered. But the one I created first, the movies, that has like this explicit page composition, then it gets that one. So that means I kind of now have all the things going, and I guess it's time to sort of go live with my things. And because everything we've seen so far has just been based on the draft rendering. And if I look at the playground, we can see from, hopefully you can see it, but from the URL pattern here, it basically goes to the site engine and then a project called the Next, and then the draft branch. And then this is the site name and the API endpoint. So if we want to render the live items, we have to use the master branch. So let's see what happens if I change this to master. And then it's basically saying, okay, I don't remember. Okay, it's changing. So it says, oh, there's no API here. Okay. And the reason why that's the case is basically it tells me here, did you remember to publish the site? So currently there's no data available, not even the API the first time until you actually publish it the first time. So let's close this one, let's close this, and then I shouldn't a bit much. So I'll now publish, or before I do it, I'll actually start another Next server. And NPM, or sorry, Next.js allows you to run things in both development mode and production mode. So now I'll start another instance, and I'm going to let it run in production mode and use the master branch data. This means production mode generally means it's faster and optimizing things. NPM run prod. It can also have a separate configuration file, which is why this will connect to, we'll see if it's going to work. Checking types. Typically I spend some more time to optimize the server before it goes live. There we are. So currently working, and let's go to localhost 4242, which is where the prod version runs. And it says page not found. Okay, nothing here. Okay, let's try to publish this item. Publish the entire tree. Publish now. Right. Let's see if we can. Yeah, it's probably something with my setup that I missed. Rejection. I'm trying to stop and start it again. It doesn't really matter. The idea is essentially that you will start one draft server it will use the draft branch, and it will start another server that uses the master branch to see our data. Any questions to this initial section?
I can see there is a question about drag and drop.
So basically, to make that work, you have to implement something in the markup. When you're in the edit mode, there has to be some tags, some data attributes in the markup. And that allows us to know which kind of region of the component you're dragging it into. And this is all part of this Enonic adapter. So when you saw me just registering various components, the Enonic adapter has some nice features that help you out with this. So you really don't have to do much to make that work. You just implement your components, and there's like a small template called regions that helps you output what you need. And also all the other components automatically get this tagging, so you can do this specific selection. I hope that was an answer. But of course, you can everything I'm showing here today is available as a detailed tutorial, as a template, and as a demo that Pavel will show you now. So everything is available. You can deep dive as much as you like into it.